All right, folks, here we are, Gameweek 215. Hope you had a good Halloween. We're into a midweek with Champions League, so that's always exciting. Not a lot to show from the last midweek, simply because, they're not very comparable midweek to midweek. Weekends are certainly a lot more comparable to each other. Looking here, the only thing that kind of jumps out at me, there's a couple of things. So first off, All-Star Pro, kind of a bigger jump than what we typically see. So the winning percentage, chance of winning, tends to only be like a percentage point or so above winning the Global All-Star, what used to be Div 4. Div 3, or what we now say All-Star Pro, actually has a fairly sizable gap here, a little more than normal. So I would imagine over the next several hours before this game week closes, there'll be more people from a ratio point of view going into All-Star versus All-Star Pro, and thus this might widen even more. And so you might just see a little bit of a opportunity here to get into one of these. Champion Europe has a big payout, but again, it'll be high points. Again, we have Champions League, so there'll be some really big clubs. So expect, I'm going to bet about 360 or something like that to get a card in this one. Nothing too dramatic here. Special Weekly is a repeat of a previous week. So L5 with a max of 40 for your rares, super rares, and uniques. You certainly can't play this with any common card or a non-playing card. You pretty much get in the top 35. You have to have a pretty strong one here. So I'm mostly leaving it alone. Limited, nothing too dramatic here. Challenger Europe's kind of interesting there, just in terms of not a lot of people in right now, and some a pretty high number of cards paid out. So looking good. Moving on, I've been wanting to shift this a little bit into player recommendations, cards, and things like that to really help you build your lineup for this week. And I might start doing these videos earlier and earlier in the day so that you have time to go and trade or purchase or whatnot. This past weekend, I did my first kind of launch of, here are a handful of players that I'm looking at. And so I want to see how I do and kind of reflect on that, and then show you this coming week's players that I'm recommending. And I'm going to kind of keep score a little bit and hold myself accountable so that I'm actually putting work into this. So the ones I will just go quickly. Nobody likes to dwell on the past too much, but this guy looked really good to me in terms of, and then he got DMP. So not sure why, but that was a big fail. But if you have him, keep him. He looks like he's a big performer. This was a bit of a stab in terms of just how cheap he was, frankly. And what we see here is, 43 is okay. I don't know, maybe you call that a push. I'm not sure, probably not. You wanted a bit more than that from him. So if we go ahead, Onisiwu here. Again, also cheap, someone to potentially hang on to. Cheap forwards that play are hard to come by. So both of these prices are pretty reasonable, and certainly has put up some nice numbers from time to time, but not this weekend. So I wouldn't give myself the nod on that one. This Raphael Geekowicks is, I'd say, a push. It's so hard to find keepers of value that are priced okay, and I thought that based on this pricing is actually not too bad. And he basically did what you thought he would do. He basically his average is 38. He got 41. So that's kind of a push. Nothing better, nothing worse. Christopher Trimmel he only got 28, so you'd almost say this was a loss. But again, just how cheap he is at the moment for a decent club, mid-table, can put up numbers like this. I kind of felt like, well, maybe it didn't work out this weekend, but I still thought it was just a reasonable buy. He's a veteran though, of course, but so maybe not long-term value, but I still think he could turn these numbers around and isn't worse. So maybe I sort of gave myself a push. It was a bit generous, but now here was a win for sure. I was definitely all over this guy, Florian Grillitsch, and he came through an 86. So his best score in quite some time, all season really. And I just think this is a player to be targeting to get in. I think he's reasonably priced at the rare, and he's even almost a steal at the limited area. So only 5 cards, so you kind of got to keep an eye out for when those get released. But I think if you can get those, will start to come down, just given that his card 1 and stuff would be heavily influencing that. But look at this. I think it's swinging downward, and again, you can probably get in on this at quite a reasonable price. And then Lucas Holler, so knew that Freeburg would do well against Firth, and sure enough, and he got another 60 plus, and just probably a little pricier, but I think if you bought him, you had a little more assurance or a little more confidence going in, and he definitely delivered. So there you go. So I'm kind of looking at this. I've done a tally. So I'm calling 2 picks were great. 2 were sort of pushes. They were okay. And 3 weren't great at all. So, and then the parameters going forward, I'm going to try and pick 5 cards a week. I'm going to try and stay below the 0.1 Ethereum in rare and the 0.02. I might call this 0.025 now that I'm thinking about it, in the limited range. I don't want to just recommend superstars and things like that you're going to have to pay an arm and a leg for, or you already know. So at least one card that's like applicable to special weekly for that game week. And then of course, focusing on their performance for this upcoming game week and their opponent and things like that. But also like there's got to be some ongoing value so that you can keep the card for a little bit and maybe flip it a little bit further down the road. And then this running tally, we'll see how I do. And hopefully if I'm just brutal at this, then I've got to change it up, I guess. I don't know. So on to the players I'm recommending here. So let's see. Oh, I'm giving one away already. So let's start over here. So Jair, not sure. He is, let's go here. So plays for the top club at Atletico Mineiro. Just fantastic in terms of some numbers here. Look at these numbers that he's been putting up. They're obviously top of the table. They're playing Gremio, sitting 19th. So should be an easy one for them. And again, pricing, especially at the limited level, just dirt cheap and rare as well. For half, 0.05 is really attainable. Now, of course, their season is wrapping up. So this is a card that you probably need to play for a little bit here, and then sit on for a couple months until the season starts up again, or else you'll probably take a loss if you're trying to flip it quickly. But you could definitely get a lot of value out of him right now. Gotoku Sakai. There we go. Also, I mean, he's played well for, this whole season really, or into last season rather. Really steady, and similarly, one of these kind of tops meets the bottom kind of thing. So Vissel Kobe, that's them. They're really battling to hold on to that last AFC Champions League spot. So, they're going to be going pretty hard. And then they're playing Vegalta Sende, so down here in the bottom. So I just think he'll do well. And again, prices are pretty reasonable, especially in the limited side. So and just a very steady defender. Thilo Kerr is a tough one for me. I was trying to find a card for like one of the bigger clubs, Champions League. If you like getting cards for, clubs that you're going to watch on TV and cheer for and stuff. I mean, what I like, it's so hard for big clubs to find anything under 0.100. So the fact that you can get him at 0.094 right now, when really his 1 month average was, 25% more than that, I think that there's kind of a buy low opportunity here. Quite cheap in the limited side as well. And now, hasn't been playing, they're playing RB Leipzig, who they beat 3-2 last Champions League week. And he played 1 minute. Like, this is him here, 26. So, not what you're looking for. And he's kind of come off the bench a bit, but they do give him time. He had 65 minutes over the weekend. So, and if there's an injury or a really good run of form, like, he's capable of putting these up. I mean, he's 25 years old, very valuable player and whatnot, and relatively steady, assuming he gets the playing time. So I feel like, just as a general buy low, this is a guy to go with. And if he plays 45 or 60 or 90 or something this midweek, then consider that a bonus. So this one's almost like flipped a little bit, investment first and game week as a bonus. And then Philip Max. So really like this pick here. So this one is for that special weekly, where you need somebody under 40 for the last 5 games. But look at how he's been more in the L15, L40 place. So he belongs back up there. If we look at this last season and a half, really just some great numbers and a pretty reliable guy. So just a poor run of form of late. But this guy's pretty valuable. If we look at his transfer market, we see, no, wrong one. Oh, I'm giving away the last one. 13.2 million, spiked 2 years ago, starting to come down now and stuff. So, but still pretty reasonable. And I think his FIFA EA Sports kind of ranking 80 is pretty solid as well. So this is somebody who, again, to me is a bit of a buy low, 130 and 0.012. If you can get him for that, that's pretty impressive. Let me just see his price graph very quickly here. Yeah, so really just trending downward. I feel like now is a good time to get him on a buy low. He might be actually worth something closer into this 200 range. And then the last one is, as you saw, Maxine Crippo. Now, I don't know about this one. I'm here in Vancouver. Whitecaps have a very big game against LAFC. It's basically a must-win for both, and they're both playing really well right now. So it's a tricky one. If we look over here, Vancouver won 2-1 back in August, and there was a draw. I think they drew in July. So, and Crippo is starting keeper, and he's been pretty average through this run where I think they've won 5 in a row now. So it hasn't been necessarily because of him so much, but they've been pretty defensive. And again, the value here, the pricing, I think, especially in the limited side, like to get a keeper for that price who's starting this midweek, that's pretty great. Maybe a little overpriced given the MLS season's winding down right now. That feels a little much for me, and I think you might be able to bargain that one down. And like I said, the numbers aren't necessarily the greatest for this, but you can get them in. Well, no, you can't get them to special weekly at a limited, but if you had them as a rare, you can get them into that special weekly. And it's such a big game that perhaps, it should be a lot of action, which means both teams really have to go for it, which means potentially there's a lot of big saves. So let's see how that goes. There you have it. I hope I gave you a ton of information. I hope I gave you a ton of value. I'm, again, trying to adapt this and make this really help. And leave some comments and and do all those wonderful things. And we'll talk soon. Good luck.